In this video, I'll be showing you how jobs, job slots, hops, and strata work, starting from the basics all the way up to some higher level tricks that you can use to beat any Dino scum in your way. I'm EP3, and I'm known for playing Stellaris in weird and challenging ways, with these tips always helping me out. I'm sponsored by Paradox to bring you this video. Now, let's get into it. So firstly, what is a job? Well, as a content creator, I had to Google this one. All jokes aside, jobs in Stellaris are where pops work to produce resources on planets. However, this mechanic can go much deeper, and in this video, we'll be looking at how you can get the most out of your loyal workers. In general, jobs are created by going to your planet and building either a district or building. Districts provide housing for your pops to live in, as well as some job slots, whereas buildings usually only provide jobs. So in general, it might be worth starting with districts so your population have somewhere to live. Now, your population won't be working for free. Each pop will have their own upkeep, which is linked to your living standard, which we'll get into later. And there's also the upkeep the specific job has. For example, with specialists, usually they turn a basic resource into an advanced, like our alloy workers, turning minerals into alloys. So keep this in mind when expanding your economy, as most good economies are built off a great quarry. Now, we did just mention specialists. So what is that? Most planets have 3 tiers of jobs: workers, specialists, and rulers. Workers generally produce your basic resources such as food, minerals, and energy. Specialists turn your basic resources into advanced resources such as alloys, consumer goods, unity, and science. And rulers generally, they just sit there and look pretty, but they usually also have the highest political power, so make sure to keep them happy, and your planets should also fall in line. Now we know about job slots, I'm going to drop some tips to get you off to a great start. Now, if you're newer to the game, you might be tempted to build as much as you can, as the more jobs, the better, right? Well, see the screen in the top right? That's how many pops you have on this planet and how many jobs are free. If we move to the population screen, you can see we're not currently working all these jobs, but are paying for the upkeep of the buildings or district. It's a good idea to plan a little bit ahead, but not completely fill out your 2 population growing colony just yet. In general, your population will prioritize what they're good at. So if you have multiple species, one good at energy production and one good at mining, they should work those jobs. So you don't need to worry too much about that. However, even if they're good at worker jobs, they will most likely move to the highest strata available to them. So be careful making too many specialist jobs on your crucial mineral world. Now, you can make them go back to being a worker, but you will need to give them time to be willing to take the pay cut. Unless you're a Gestalt, of course. Now, you could go into a whole video about specialization and making the most of your planets, and that's because I have on this channel. So check those videos out after this one. Now we're moving to the backbone of your empire and looking at everything to do with your population or pops, starting with your species. In general, species choice doesn't really matter, as they in general have the same base upkeeps of food and consumer goods. This will change if you select a lithoid, where they eat rocks. Don't ask how it works, I think they're just eating themselves. And if you choose robots, where they will have an energy upkeep instead. This is important as these resources will constantly be needed more and more as your empire grows. If you're not Gestalt, each pop has a happiness rating as a percentage. There's a base level of 50%, which can be affected by edicts, living standards, modifiers, and ruler traits. Happiness is important as it goes into calculating approval rating when combined with political power. An approval rating ultimately decides your stability, which when you have over 50%, you gain resources, trade value, and immigration. And below 50%, you lose all of these. So make sure your population is happy, as well as those with significant power. As well as these previous attributes, each pop has a preference to the type of planet they can live on. For each 1% reduction of habitability below 100%, your pop upkeep and amenity usage will increase by 1%, and your job output and species growth will be reduced by 0.5%. So when exploring the galaxy, keep an eye for green planet symbols, which signify at least 70% habitability, which I always recommend to try and colonize. There will also be yellow planet symbols, which is between 40 and 69% habitability, which I also recommend inhabiting, as the pure output of the pops negate the lower habitability modifiers. And as the game progresses, you will find ways to increase the habitability. It's worth building them up now. However, I recommend avoiding any red planet symbols, as this signifies below 40% habitability, which is not worth the negatives and will cost you more than it will produce. You may, as the game progresses, be able to fix the habitability, maybe through terraforming or finding other species to join your empire that can inhabit these different worlds. Now we will move on to living standards. If you come over to the species tab, each species will have different rights. Here we'll be focusing on the living standard. Living standards affect happiness, consumer good upkeep, and political power of different strata pops. They're unlocked either through your starting game ethics, civics, or even techs as the game goes on. And as you may know, I love technology. The tip I love to employ is starting as a materialist, which unlocks academic privilege. This gives my rulers and specialists us 15% happiness, and my pops produce 10% more research points, which means my scientists can research even more. However, this doesn't come for free. My unemployed pops have reduced happiness, and my specialists have the same consumer good upkeep as rulers. So consumer goods could be an issue, to make sure you have a great surplus. We talked a lot about pops, but I haven't mentioned where they come from. Well, when a mother and a father love each other. Oh, wait, no, that's not how it works. Essentially, a pop will be created once you fill this bar, which the total of the bar is calculated by 100 plus growth scaling times empire population. Every month, the game will do a calculation, but how it exactly calculates it is beyond this video. Essentially, you can speed up your population growth via techs, building a gene clinic, traits, and ethics, and also make sure you have some spare housing for your newly made pops. As well as growing pops naturally, you can assemble, whether that's through constructing the latest robot or cloning yourself. This is a separate bar, so you can essentially speed up your pop growth and making sure you're assembling as well as naturally growing. As well as this, if you have the galactic market set up, you can liberate slaves from the market, introducing them to your utopia, and of course, send them straight back to work. Migration also plays an effect on your pop growth, helping to tick the bar along. This is calculating by looking at housing, stability, and unemployment on a planet. The higher these are, the more migration, so more pop growth, and the lower, of course, the less. The last thing you can affect your pops with are policies. These are located in your government tab and then policies. Your economic policy can shift your focus into consumer goods, alloys, or a balance depending if you're at peace and needing a lot of consumer goods or preparing for war, where you need to use as many alloys as you can to create your biggest fleet. If you're a gestalt, this instead focuses on specialists or workers, which you can decide which is best depending on the type of resources you need. This has been how jobs, job slots, pops, and strata works. If you enjoyed and you learned something today, make sure you subscribe. There'll be plenty more tutorials from a whole range of content creators on the official Stellaris channel.